This training video will cover getting started with the Tooling U Administration Center, including setting permissions to subscriptions, adding classes to subscriptions, and assigning students to subscription IDs. Depending on if you are a group or site administrator, screens may differ from your actual version of Tooling U. To get started, you will need your administrator username and password assigned to you by Tooling U. Go to www.toolingu.com and select Admin Login in the upper right-hand corner. When you first log into your administrative account, the first screen you will see is your student list. This is where all current and previous students will be listed in your account. If you are a new user, names will not appear on the list until your students register. You will find your available subscriptions on the Subscriptions tab. There are 3 steps to setting up your students. The first step is applying permissions. The second step is adding classes. The third step is assigning a student a subscription ID. To apply permissions, go to the light gray bar at the top of your screen. Select Change Permissions. Under Step 1, select All Subscriptions or a group of subscriptions. Please note, if you have not set up groups, this is a feature covered in the Administrator Essentials Setting Up Groups tutorial and can be done after your students register. For the following permissions, you can choose how you would like to set up your students. Please note, you can make changes to these permissions at any time for an individual, a group of students, or all of your students. To select a permission, click the box to the left of the permission name. The first permission is Student cannot register for additional classes. This means that administrators are the only ones who can determine student curriculum. By turning off the student's ability to add classes themselves, you ensure they are staying on task and taking relevant classes. The next 3 permissions have to do with the student's ability to review pre-tests and finals. Student will not see correct answer upon completion of test means that when the student uses the recap button, they will see the question, their answer, whether their answer was correct or incorrect, and a link back to the lesson. This forces the student to review the questions they got wrong instead of just giving them the correct answer. If you do not select this option, they will be given all of the correct answers at completion of a pretest and final exam. Student will see correct answers on final exams once they have received a score that meets or exceeds the minimum passing score. This overrides all other permissions related to test responses. This will turn off the recap button completely. Student cannot begin class without first taking the pretest. Means the student must complete the 5-question pretest before they can begin the class. This will give an administrator pre- and post metrics to compare so you can see your students' improvement in taking the Tooling U classes. Student cannot take the final exam before completing the class. Means the student must view each lesson before they can access the final exam. Student is required to finish only the final exam to complete the class. Student is not required to take the entire class. This allows your student to test out of a class without having to view each lesson. Student cannot print PDF documents. Will disable the function that allows students to print any Tooling U classes. The PDF files include text and visual diagrams and illustrations, but do not include pretests or final exams. There are positives and negatives to setting this permission. The positives are that the student can print or save the documents so they have a takeaway from the class and is helpful to students who may not have a computer at home. However, some administrators turn this permission off because they don't want their students taking the test with the notes in front of them. We also have a permission that student cannot print a PDF copy of the class until class is completed. This permission will require that a student pass the final exam before the icon to print the PDF file will appear. If you set this permission, you ensure your students will not be taking an open book test, but they still have access to print the files or save them so they have a takeaway from the course. Student cannot print certificates and student cannot print competency certificates will not allow the student to print any certificates of completion, even if they achieve a minimum test score or complete their competency. If you leave the box unchecked, the student can only print certificates if they meet the minimum passing grade that is set by the administrator or they complete the entire competency. Student cannot view their points and/or team points. This is related to our Team Tracker tool that encourages participation. The next two permissions give you the ability to set prerequisites. If you want to set an order, but have the students continue to move through the classes even if they fail to meet the minimum passing score, you will want to use Enforce the Company and/or Group Class Order. You must set class order before setting this permission. If you want your student to meet the minimum passing score for each individual class in their schedule before they move forward to the next class, select when the company and/or group class order is enforced. The student cannot progress once all final exam attempts have been made. Please note, you may need to give students additional attempts to retake the final. Require strong passwords. Password must contain at least one uppercase letter, at least one lowercase letter, at least one number or special character, and be at least 8 characters in length. This permission should be checked off if there are strict security requirements at your facility. Please note, however, the stronger the password, the more likely the student will forget it. Student cannot edit their contact information in the My Accounts tab. Additional permissions. Minimum test score. For the final exam, we usually suggest a passing grade of between 75 and 80%. If you are unsure, we suggest starting with the higher grade. You can always make adjustments to the permission if the minimum passing grade is too high. Number of times a pretest can be taken. We suggest 1 time. The pretest should be used to measure the student's knowledge before they take the test, so they should only have to take it once. This is to provide you with clear metrics, so you measure your training program's effectiveness. Number of times a final exam can be taken. We suggest 2 or 3 times. If a student fails it multiple times, you, as the administrator, can change it for the individual student so they are able to retake it, but it makes you aware that the student might be struggling with the content and offers you the chance to provide extra help. Length of time between retaking final exams, days. You can leave this permission set at none, which will allow the student to retake the test immediately. We usually suggest 1 day, which resets the student's test at midnight Eastern Standard Time. This prohibits the student from automatically jumping back into the test and encourages him or her to review the material. Once you set permission, click Save Permissions. This will bring you back to the Subscription tab, where you can move along the next step, adding classes to students' schedules. On the Subscriptions tab in the light gray bar, select Add Classes to Subscriptions. Under Step 1, select All Subscriptions. This will add the classes to the schedule for all students. Select Students will provide a list of students. You can check the names of the people for which you would like to add classes. Group of Students will allow you to select the group for which you wish to add classes. It will add for all individuals within that group. On the right-hand side of the screen, under Step 2, select how you would like to add classes. Individual classes, you will need to add 1 at a time. Add Departments will add entire departments to the seat at once. Add by Custom Programs will add customized bundles of classes you created. Add by Competency will add classes that are assigned to a specific competency. Please note, this will not push out hands-on tasks that are associated by the competency. Add by NIMS, MSSC, AWS, SME Standard. These are predetermined groups of Tooling U classes mapped to national credentials. To add multiple classes to the student's schedules, select Add Individual Classes. Select the drop-down department list to choose the department from which you wish to add classes. Select the classes by clicking the box to the left of the class name. To view what is covered in the class, you can click on any of the class titles and a pop-up will appear with the class outlines and objectives. Select Add Classes. A green confirmation bar will appear at the top of the screen to let you know they have been successfully added. If you choose to add classes by department, custom program, competency, or credential, a drop-down box will appear and let you select from a list. Once you have chosen the department, custom program, competency, or credential you want to add to your students' schedules. Click Add Classes. A green confirmation bar will appear at the top of the screen to let you know they have successfully been added. Once you have added the classes to your students' schedules, click Back to the previous page for the last step. To assign a subscription ID to a student, click on First Available Subscription ID. Enter the student's name in the field provided. You have the option to email the directions to the student and also to blind copy yourself on the email. If you do not have a student's email or want to hand them their directions, you can print this page out once you have decided how you want the student to receive their directions. Click Submit and a green bar will appear to let you know you have successfully assigned a student. The name will appear on the left. If you choose to print the page, you can click on the printable version link at the top of the page. Click on the Back to Subscriptions list button and continue until you have either emailed or have printed a page for each of your students to use to register. Please note, if you use the Back button in your browser, it will not update your Subscriptions tab. The students you entered will stay on your Subscriptions tab until the individuals have registered, meaning they have created a username and password. This concludes the basic subscription rollout video. If you still have questions regarding your Tooling U account, please call us at 866-706-8665 or email us at support@toolingu.com.